And as a woman, I want a strong man who is a protector and a provider that will go to war if need be, that will protect me, protect my family, make money. I see that as being actually masculine. That's like the man that I grew up with, my dad. This is a PSA for all the men out there and all the boys who think they're men, but they're actually boys. This is gonna be the summer of canceling boys. If all of these women, including myself, are having issues, then I have to think, it might not be us, it might be men. It is not just the guys in Los Angeles, Nashville, Dallas. Quite frankly, I think they're trash all over this country. I am tired of dealing with trash men. Not one single man on planet Earth is worth making any woman feel like she is not good enough.
Of course I did. I mean, I'm a conservative talk show host, so obviously folks are not used to people like me, especially in the more conservative spaces, ever talking about men or critiquing men in any way, because obviously for so long it's been conservatives that have fought back against modern day feminism. But my video was more about dating, and it's rough out there. And finally, I just got fed up and decided to do a little PSA because maybe I can help educate men on what's going wrong. Maybe it is a breakdown in communication that is the problem.
Well, you know, I saw it when you posted it, and I didn't get the big issue because what I understood you to be saying is, look, if you're going to be a jerk, then you're going to be a jerk, and we're going to label you that way. And women, you don't settle for that. These are boys, not men, and if they're going to act that way, let them act that way, but don't demean yourself by interacting with them. Did I miss the point, or was that the point?
Oh, that's the point. But there are so many women out there that have really come into their own, that have really found their voices. And unfortunately, there are so many boys out there that have failed to realize that, and they've failed to catch up.
We can all remember the Tomi Lahren men are trash rant. As a conservative woman, it was shocking for many of us to hear this very familiar conversation come from the other side of the aisle, which is kind of a symbol that it's really just the culture, not really a liberal or a conservative thing anymore. But The Godfather checked her. Kinda.
See, that will work in an environment where they're actually trying to keep families together, trying to keep relationships together. But see, people will come over to men or women in the black community, and the men will ask the women to talk about how bad y'all are. And the women will ask the men, talk about how bad you are. This is a college level course. And ladies, what are you learning from Tomi? She came in running the, I'm strong, independent, don't need no man. I'm high value and I got standards and you don't chase no man. I ain't gonna compete for no man. Don't do that. She should have been up there singing I Will Survive with Gloria Gaynor, and Beyonce could have been singing and dancing in the background. But they shut that crap down because they're trying to keep their families. They're trying to keep their relationships. And now she's out here in a softer, more gentle tone doing this.
So I can't help you there. I'm not saying that girls are perfect and men are awful or boys are awful. I'm not saying that, never would say that. I'm sure that there are many horrible girls out there that do many horrible things. I myself am not perfect. I acknowledge that. I'm happy to acknowledge it. So I wanted to clear that up. Men, I don't think you're trash.
All of these things are always through the prism of the feminine. So young boys, they don't do well in school. They don't do well in school because it's all programmed for the feminine. Stay still, fold your hands, right? Be quiet. Boys are rambunctious. They like to beat each other up. They like to be mischievous. They like to break things. They like to do that kind of stuff. There's no outlet for them to do that stuff. Their teachers are all women, right? There's basically all masculinity is now considered toxic. Basically all of it.
Earlier, I said that Kevin Samuels, quote unquote, kinda checked Tomi Lahren. In this conversation about the Netflix show Adolescence, we're going to hear Andrew Wilson check her in a way that maybe Kevin Samuels didn't feel comfortable doing, or maybe he didn't even have the place to. He's going to simply do it, in my opinion, because if this is the conservative voice, then I don't know if there's a big difference between Tomi Lahren's quote-unquote conservative voice and the liberal voices that we're hearing all the time.
And then these people go out to parliament. The same women will go to parliament. They vote to send men off to war to stab each other in the face with bayonets. And you're concerned about toxic masculinity. It cracks me up. It's like the brutal savagery of men is a necessary precondition for society to exist, and we just kind of pretend like it's not. And this show should actually be an indictment on the feminine rather than the masculine, because basically masculinity is just punished everywhere, all the time, nonstop. It's no wonder guys like Andrew Tate get so famous in these spaces. I mean, what's the alternative? The alternative is everything must be feminine, tone policing, nonsense like this. It's ridiculous.
You were walking in with 5 seconds. You did a little twirl, and then here we are.
It's the dramatics. It's the dramatics. I was just being a little dramatic.
I know this lady and just say he did a twirl and walked out to the audience.
I don't understand. Like, men, we normally have to put our wallets and our phones and our money and everything in our pockets. Like, I pay a lot for these clothes. I am not trying to walk out like that.
Yeah.
So now I get to put stuff in the bag.
Here's your purse.
See, this is my travel bag right now. This is my travel purse right here.
By the way, your travel purse is nice.
I got a lot of things in there. One of the most important things in here is I got my Jen and Friends
friendship bracelet.
The embodiment of the alternative masculinity that Andrew Wilson was talking about is embodied in Dwayne Wade, a former All-Pro champion NBA basketball player, now considering opening a nail polish line and carrying Merces and doing pirouettes on national television. This is a new version of masculinity that both conservatives and liberals are championing. And young boys are left to decide, is this the kind of masculinity that I want?
All right, I want to bring Tomi in, because Tomi, you've got a very interesting perspective, I think. You've talked about something different. You call it the vacation of men, which is a great phrase. I'd love you to just explain what you mean by that. But also, you're not a fan of Andrew Tate or the influence he has. So that makes you, I think, an interesting commentator in this area. So just explain, first of all, the vacation of men.
So I think over the last probably 10 years, there has been what I call the vacation of men. It was everything should be about your emotions and your feelings, and men were emasculated, and this whole concept of toxic masculinity warped the minds of a lot of young men, and they felt masculine, they wanted to be masculine, but society was telling them they should be softer, that it was being toxically masculine if you wanted to play sports and chop wood and go to war. And so men were so emasculated and so beat down that then there was this revolution of what was actually toxic masculinity, the Tate brothers and others, which I feel as a female that doesn't represent true masculinity. That to me represents douchebaggery. And as a woman, I want a strong man who is a protector and a provider, that will go to war if need be, that will protect me, protect my family, make money. I see that as being actually masculine. That's like the man that I grew up with.
Here, even from a conservative pundit, we're hearing a refrain that is very common. This is what a man is supposed to do. You're supposed to lay down your life for your country. You're supposed to make money. You're supposed to protect your family. You earn for your family, all of those things. But what's interesting here, and you're going to hear Tomi Lahren speaking, I want you to focus on Andrew. Watch his reactions, because he's doing something that, if he could have done it, Kevin Samuels would have done it 3 or 4 years ago, but I don't think he was in a position to do it. But Andrew absolutely is. Watch him.
But what we're seeing now is these young men who look at Andrew Tate and the Tate brothers, and they see somebody who's just quite frankly a douchebag and disrespects women. And because they've been so emasculated, they're like, oh, great, that's a manly man. But that's not right either. So at some point, I think we'll go back to maybe meeting in the middle here. You can be a man who has feelings and emotions, but you can also go to war and protect and defend your family. I'm hoping we can get back there. But the two extremes right now, they're confusing men, and quite frankly, they're leaving women with few choices. And that's the real tragedy here.
And quite frankly, they're leaving women with few choices. And that's the real tragedy here.
And quite frankly, they're leaving women with few choices. And that's the real tragedy here.
There may be some that watch my content and say that I exhibit a measure of misogyny. To that, I would simply respond, I learned in life that the best principle is that people's opinions of me is none of my business. If you have an issue with the points I make, that's fine. But if you're going to simply label a different way of looking at what is around us as misogyny, then there is no conversation to be had. What I am noticing is that on both the liberal side and the conservative side, they don't have an answer for what healthy masculinity actually is. if you consider Tomi Lahren conservative. I don't know what conservative means anymore. That said, however, it is Andrew who's going to make the obvious clear to everyone, and they cannot refute it.
You see, I completely agree with you, but Andrew, you were shaking your head quite vigorously. Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just more feminine or feminist nonsense ultimately. And the covert feminism in society is big, especially on the conservative side. So here's what happens, right? Women need to have feminine virtues for men to be pursuing masculine virtues, for you to say things like, well, men, what I want is for men to protect me and I want men to make money. Well, that's great. What that ends up doing is it gives you a set of privilege in society. What do men get?
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
What do men get for doing that for you? What are we getting from women for doing that? Are we getting chaste virgins on our wedding night? No, we're not getting chaste virgins on our wedding night. Are we getting women of great virtue? No, we're not getting women of great virtue. The idea of courtly love is supposed to be done for women of great virtue. Where are they? Well, they're nowhere. And so in modernity, in society, when female conservative influencers say this, it's actually a form of covert feminism. They're saying, I want privilege in society, right? But what is it women are giving to men to get it? What are they giving them?
One reason I feel compelled to make content around how men can answer the question of finding a mate in the modern environment is that it is an existential crisis. How are men and women going to solve the new modern contract of a man and a woman building a family together? The old contract made things a lot more simple. Women do X, men do Y. Men are still held to the Y part of that contract. The X part of that contract is a moving target. And you're going to hear Tomi Lahren, conservative pundit, move the target.
Piers, can I please chime in here?
Yes, you can. And then James can, and I'll come to you, Sean.
No, I would love to. I love this whole thing of like, if you're a female conservative and you don't believe that men should be douchebags, that all of a sudden you're a covert feminist. Call me a feminist. I really don't give one crap one way or another, but I can tell you this. A lot of these men, these podcast hosts on the right that like to think of themselves as these big masculine men, and what am I getting out of it? I can tell you this.
There's that feminism.
All right, I believe I'm a woman of virtue, right?
Out.
Yeah, there's the feminism. Oh, I'm a woman of virtue. I happen to be independently successful. I have a husband who's not only a former professional athlete, but is currently a professional baseball coach. So is he not a masculine man? I mean, I'm confused here. What's your concept of a masculine man? Mine is a man who respects me.
Yeah, that misses the point, though. Like, you're still not contending with the argument that I'm
what's
making.
your point?
I'm saying inside of society, right this second, right, masculinity is not only punished, but also women on the right, covert feminists on the right, are constantly and consistently talking about how they need to have privilege in society. I want men. Their version of masculinity is men who take care of us, men who protect us, men who do all of this. Those are all duties that men have towards women. Great. What are the duties that women have towards men? What are the duties that women have towards anything? What do men get out of this arrangement? What are we getting out of this arrangement? Can you tell me?
You get nothing.
I mean, you.
Well,
as I was going to
argue
answer
that
a
men
second ago.
innately should be protectors and providers.
Hang on one second. Let Tomi respond.
Most men are born that way.
Let Tomi respond to that, and then I'll come to you, Jez. And then
Yeah,
Sean,
most
you've
men
been
are-
waiting patiently. So
Most men are born to be protectors and providers. I can't imagine my dad saying, you know what, to my mom, you know what, I'm not going to be a protector and a provider unless you do this. That's not how real men operate. Real men are protectors and providers, and they marry women who hopefully
great,
have
a
some
woman telling
virtue,
us what
but
real
also
men
bring a
are
lot
again.
to the
Great.
table as
There's no way to separate the person that I am from the person that I was raised to be. I was raised to go to church and sit quiet and say yes ma'am, no ma'am. I was raised to be a gentleman and to know how to treat a lady. I was taught to work hard with a Protestant work ethic and to not ask for handouts. And I was taught what men are supposed to do. That has never changed. Society has never stopped telling men what we're supposed to do, how a man is supposed to act. As a matter of fact, the rules for what a man is supposed to do seem to be increasing in number. But we're also seeing a fudging of the lines in terms of what is a woman and what a woman owes to a man. And the true fallout from all of this is that we're seeing a growing number of young guys saying, I don't see what I want in the world right now. I might see a young lady that I want to spend an evening with, but a woman that I want to sacrifice myself for, throw myself in front of the line of fire so I can protect her and my family, that is withering away. And what is abundantly clear to me is that raised as a person in the West with Western values, the liberals don't have an answer unless it's be more like Dwayne Wade, and the conservatives don't have an answer because Tomi Lahren is essentially saying the same thing, just remove the finger polish. And that is not an answer acceptable to a growing number of young men. How to answer that? The East has ways of answering it through traditional methods, but they're still struggling. But the West doesn't even have that. And that existential crisis, I still wonder how it's going to get solved. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.